Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel. And I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of December 26th through January 1st, basically, of 2023. So the last week of the year, the last vlog for 2022. And there's not a lot going on this week, but there is one really big significant event, and that's the one that many people are familiar with, even people who don't know astrology well, and that is Mercury is going to go retrograde this week. So first off, the Astrological Winds channel is a free service, and it is available on YouTube every week, and all you have to do is become a follower if you have a YouTube and turn your notifications on, and you'll know when it's posted. And please, like I said, it's a free service. When I'm done today, or when you're done listening today, please pass on the link to someone else. Even if you've already done that, find somebody else to do it for. I know they may, even if you think they might be interested, that'd be great. Just turn it on to them. That's the way the blog grows. And it's the best way for you guys to repay me back. Now, thing I'd like to remind everybody of, I know some of you guys don't know astrology well. So remember, don't get caught up on the astrological terms that I'm going to mention. You want to focus on the words in between, which are most of the words anyway, that are interpreting what that means this week. And therefore, you know the type of energy that's going on. It doesn't matter what, if you know why, but you can work with it when you know what it is. So that's what you want to focus on. Now, of course, most of you guys do know some astrology, so I do mention the astrology because I know a lot of people pick up stuff and learn stuff from it, and the blog has been growing and growing. It grew a lot this year. I really appreciate it. And of course, the other way you guys can support me is to contact me if you need a reading. And it's a great Christmas, if you're still looking for some late Christmas gift for someone, or even for yourself, really. Getting a reading. Best way to get me is matthue823@gmail.com. And I'll go over some more of those details at the end. Let's get into the last week of the year. And then I will be doing a yearly blog for the year of 2023 coming up at the end of this week too. So look for that. That's really an important one because we'll really get to see what the biggest 2 or 3 backgrounds changes that the whole Earth will be going through astrologically. And just like the Saturn-Uranus square of the last 2 years, and the Saturn-Pluto conjunction of the year before that, having such a strong impact on the history of the world, and even Pluto in Capricorn for the last over 15 years now, it's just really can see how those background energies really play out. So that's a really important blog to hear. The annual one that only gets done once a year, obviously, at the beginning of the year. So look forward to that too. Okay, let's get into this. So Mercury is going retrograde this week, you guys. And I know a lot of people know what that, basically means. The basics of Mercury retrograde is trying to avoid starting new projects, instead sticking to what you're doing right now. If you usually, you can do new projects, it's just that the expectation level of what your results are not going to be what you're expecting, or likely even close to what you're expecting. And if you're okay with that, you can go forward and do whatever you want, and free to react to life about that. But if you're trying to achieve a certain goal and you start that during Mercury retrograde, it usually is not going to end up the way you think it's going to be. So, and of course, communication breakdowns, travel delays, those kind of things we can all expect. But what's really important about this Mercury retrograde is that Mars is retrograde right now too. I've been talking about that since October, when it went retrograde on the 29th, and it will be retrograde until the 12th or 13th of January. And Mercury will be going retrograde on, Thursday, the 29th, and then it will be going all the way until the 18th of January retrograde. So kind of congruent with this end of Mars retrograde in Gemini, which happens to be a sign that Mercury rules. So they're tying together there too. And it's rare for two of the three inner planets. We have three inner planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. It's rare for two of the three of them to be retrograde at the same time. So that's what makes this kind of unique, and that's what's going to make it kind of almost, very, very frustrating, because the inner planets control most of what we do every day. And I don't want to say control, but they're what we do most of every day is what those three planets are about. Mercury is our communications, our traveling, our information, all our mental and intellectual type stuff. So that's a large portion of what we do every day. And then Mars is all our actions and our motivations and desires. So that's also a very large part of what we do every day. So we have 2/3 of basically what we do every day moving in a backwards kind of way, where things that we normally would think, plan, and act on and expect some kind of result or near some kind of result are not getting us the results that we normally get. So super frustrating, no question about it. It's going to be 2 or 3 weeks of literally feeling certain things like you're bashing your head up against a wall, if you're really trying to push. And so it's in Capricorn, the Mercury retro. Okay, so what I think is going to be really on what we're really going to be feeling is an inability to make a solid decision. And I think what's going to happen is that we're going to feel like we never completely have all the information we need, or perhaps we don't have the ability or time to sort through the information that we have, or there's going to be ever-changing circumstances and events that constantly are shifting that information pile. And therefore, I think what's really going to be the biggest challenge during this Mercury retrograde the next 3 weeks is trying to make decisions on things and feeling good about it. And realizing that most of the old ways that we would do that we would process our thoughts and make decisions, are not giving us the final answer solidly enough for what we want to do and make that decision with. So I think it's gonna, a lot of the old structures that we have, the old thoughts that we have, the old methods that we have are not working well for us. So that can be really frustrating, especially for, Capricorn, because, the wisdom of what, we built on in the past doesn't seem to be working anymore. And we take a look around us and, that seems to really, be the way a lot of things are going in the world. So yeah, just and then, I think even if we take actions, just since late October, a lot of things that we take actions on because of Mars retrograde are just kind of running right into a wall, or they're just, not working out. And, like I said, that Mars retrograde is in Gemini, a sign that Mercury rules. So it's only going to make it even more exasperating. It's going to be really confusing to try to figure out what to do. And so, like I said, if you can avoid those things like, making new deals. Land deals is something too. Land and real estate are earth sign things. So it's like that's one of the things to be careful of. And then also with travel, with Capricorn type energy like this, more likely than not, there's going to be, in the northern hemisphere anyway, there's going to be a lot of winter type storms that affect the land, travel on land. So, like automobile and things like that. And then like, so just, knowing, and then, like I said in the beginning, the information, it's either we're not feeling like we're getting enough or it's constantly changing. Those are all things that are going to slow down the information. Now, what's interesting is on the very same day that Mercury goes retro on Thursday, it's Venus, Mercury and Venus are also conjunct in Capricorn, and they're both sextiling Neptune this week at the same time, and they're both squaring Eris at the same time. So that's really interesting because all three of those aspects, the conjunction of Venus, the sextile to Neptune, and the square to Eris by Mercury stationing retrograde, are going to be imprinted into the whole Mercury retrograde period. And so the Mercury conjunct Venus is actually something that's usually pretty good for working out agreements, for sitting down and negotiating and getting stuff out, getting your ideas out, and with sextile to Neptune, it shows that it's like there's some kind of shared ideals behind that too. That there's like been a lot of communication going on and opportunities that may appeal to those ideals. But I think the square to Eris is what's making it tricky. It's showing that the circumstances are constantly changing and it feels really chaotic. So like, even though we may have this congruence of coming together with people and even like open lines of communication and shared ideals, it seems like the constantly changing situations around us are making it impossible to make that final decision that Mercury and Capricorn wants. So while it's going retro, and with Mars going retro in Gemini, a sign Mercury rules, I think we're just going to have 3 weeks of it very difficult to nail things down, yet people are still, have open lines of communication and are sharing what they want to share about that. So it's an interesting energy that we'll be working through, but I really need to, you guys need to know, I can't not be real with you about this. It's my job, it's going to be a frustrating 2 or 3 weeks or so of anything that you're planning, organizing, trying to collect information about to make some kind of decision about. And that includes any kind of business decisions, real estate decisions, anything that has to do with your structure and form, anything having to do with information. The information is not being perceived properly for whatever reasons. Okay, only 2 other things I want to mention this week. It'll be a quick blog and we'll be done. On Friday, there's a Sun quincunx Mars. So this is really bumpy energy. This is like the energy of someone who's been frustrated and is still trying to push what they're doing, and it's awkward and off. So like our actions may be really imbalanced. We may do things that surprise others even. There's a lot of irritability and anger and frustration behind that energy of still seeing how things we normally do are failing us, yet somehow we're still trying to push and through, and maybe even knowing we're wrong. So we kind of mess ourselves up with a Sun quincunx Mars. It's like the decisions we've made are hurting us the most, and it can invite in physical problems too. Illness, injury, because we're off. Our energy is off. It's awkward, and we do impulsive stuff, and we may end up not taking care of ourselves well enough and making ourselves susceptible to some kind of injury or illness. We do have a lot of assertive energy, and there's a lot of energy, that's available, but it's very, very edgy. So basically we need to adjust to slow ourselves down, to be real about the things that we're doing and the decisions we may have made that are messing us up now. And the only one to be really upset with is yourself. So it's really about confronting yourself, letting go of certain things, making those adjustments, and disciplining our energy, because there's going to be a lot of energy, but it's really easy to let it spin out of control and hurt yourself or surprise others and damage relationships. Okay, and the last thing is next weekend. The New Year's weekend is going to have Venus conjunct Pluto. And I don't know if you guys have been checking it out this week. I told you last week, it is so great right now. Venus right on the horizon, southwest horizon, really bright at dusk, and Mercury just a little bit above it. And one of the few times you can see all 5 planets like a pearl across the sky. Venus, Mercury, then comes the bright one at the midheaven is Jupiter, straight up midheaven. Saturn is in between Venus and Mercury, and Jupiter, almost exactly in the middle of them. You see a little bit, it's a much dimmer than Jupiter and Venus, but it's brighter than Mercury. And then go all the way to the east horizon, and the bright red one over by the edge of Taurus and Capella, the star Capella is Mars. So you have all 5 planets. And last night, when this first night of the moon reappearing after the new moon on the weekend, the moon was right after Mercury too. So there was Venus, Mercury, moon. So there's another night or two, you have that opportunity to see the moon before it gets towards Saturn. So all lining up like a pearl. But anyway, Pluto we can't see, but Venus is going to be conjuncting Pluto. So Pluto's right on that horizon with Venus, but we just don't see it. It's, it's so far out, we don't see it. But Venus is going to be out there too next weekend. And so Venus-Pluto can operate in 2 different ways. It is very much about intense experiences with emotions within relationships, especially with loved ones, that come up and literally transform your consciousness and change you. The difficult thing with Venus Pluto is many people get into power struggles with their loved ones during this aspect. They'll use trying to get what they want from others. They'll use manipulation, they'll use guilt, they'll use shame, they'll use fear, they'll use coercion. So it's a lot about power struggles, and obviously that kind of thing usually occurs with people who have already had some type of relationship. What it can be, though, otherwise, is to draw up deep emotions within relationships that stoke up passion and bring the relationships to a new level. It's almost like a rebirthing, and can just bring this deep, deep connection with one another. On a more superficial level, it's a time where if you can actually get obsessed with someone too. So if it's in new relationships, it has an obsessive kind of quality to it, and you may not be making the most balanced decision on what's best for you. You may not see the clearly true potential of that relationship. You may be misjudging it, but you may also find out it's one of the most intense, passionate relationships you've ever been involved in, for whether no matter how long it lasts. So it's very intense, passionate energy. And it's also good to be careful with money again during that time. You can find like a lot of negative things that have been going on about money underneath, those kind of things. But and can also be channeled into very powerful artistic manifestation of like this intense energy we have inside us. So a couple other ways that can manifest, but it's usually through relationships, and it can easily devolve into power struggle type stuff. So we want to try to be aware of that, and instead turn it into like this deep, passionate connection of greater understanding of one another and self instead. All right, that just about does it for this year, guys. I will do, like I said, an annual. Now, also, for those of you who are interested in mundane, political, social astrology, I just did do a blog also on the United States next quarter, based on the winter solstice chart. So that's also available on YouTube if you missed it, for people who are interested in kind of get an idea of what's going to be happening for the U.S. in the next quarter and the next year, really, 2023. That solstice chart can really imprint the whole year. So that's available. And like I said, I will do an annual blog probably next weekend, right around the 1st, right around when I do my weekly. I'll probably do an annual one too, like either right before it or right after it. And I know we are going to have one really big shift coming up in 2023. Pluto is going to start heading towards Aquarius, so a lot of things are going to be shifting. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. It is available on YouTube every week. If you have a YouTube account, become a follower, please. You guys are doing great. We're up to hundreds now. Let's keep it going. Go for 4 digits, long term. The best way you guys can help me, it is a free service, is to please pass the link on right now. It's not a hard thing to do, and I understand that maybe some people might not be interested in it, but you never know. So please, and if you passed it on for me once already, find someone else to pass it on to. I really, really appreciate that, guys. Also, it's available on all kinds of podcasts. There's no reason to watch a video of me talking to the camera. Podcasts free you up to be able to listen to the blog when you're doing something else, taking a walk, working out at the gym, whatever it may be. It's a much, no reason to keep your eyes on a camera. So just look it up. It's put out by Buzzsprout, about 20 different podcasts. Pick it up. The podcast, I've been told I'm now in the top 50%. So let's keep that going too, become a follower on the podcast. And hey, feel free to comment too, guys. I will probably respond to your comments. There's no problem with open dialogue. If I have the time, you guys want to comment, talk on the blog comments, go for it. Also, if you have Instagram, I do post the link on Instagram, and I also post other stuff on Instagram during the week that you may be missing out on. And it's not video or audio during the week on Instagram. It's just a sentence or two that you can read about, like I was telling people about the planet lineup, things like that, that certain days where maybe the moon is very active, and I want to let you guys know about that stuff. So, if you have an Instagram account, same thing. Look up Astrological Winds channel, become a follower. Not a hard thing to do, right? And lastly, the other place I put it is on Facebook. You do need to become a friend. It's a private account. Matthew Lawton, Matthew with 2 T's, Lauten. If you'd like to give a donation, my Venmo handle is at the symbol A in the circle, Matthew hyphen in the middle, Lawton, Lauten. Any donation is fine. Nothing is too small, and every donation is appreciated too. Also, best way you guys can support me otherwise, I am a professional astrologer. I've been giving readings for over 20 years. Get your birth chart done. know the energy you're working with in your life. It never leaves you, and don't be blind to it. Get your predictive readings done every year around your birthday so that you know how the energy of the planets this year is going to affect you. It's just like this weather report I do every week, except it's just for you. And I also do relationship chart analysis, astrocartography or relocation if you're thinking about moving somewhere, elections if you need the best timing for an event, like something important like opening a business or a wedding. You want to try to align the energy best you can. It's worth it. And horary, if you have a burning question about you can't get an answer to, it's very emotionally tied up and making you indecisive, we can sometimes get an answer out of a chart. Fixed star readings too, for people who are looking for their deep soul purpose. All kinds of stuff, guys. And then there's beginners classes for those who are interested in learning more. They're $25 a piece. Unless you're a student, they're $20 a piece. Or you can have the first 5 for $100 even. They're on Dropbox, available as a MP3 files. So I'll just be able to you just get your information, and I allow you to access those files. Also, if you have a group that's looking for an astrology class, lecture, open question and answer session, mini readings, some kind of entertainment for your event, all these things, best way to get me is through my email, matthure823@gmail.com. That's matthure823@gmail.com. Also, like I said, you can always contact me through the comments, but you got to look at the comment again to get the information, if you're missing out. So, all right, everybody. Well, it's been an interesting year. It's been an interesting last 3 or 4 years with all the end of this Capricorn energy, with Pluto just ripping through the end of the critical degrees of Capricorn, with Saturn and Uranus involved. Wow, a lot has changed in the last 3 years, and we're still in the middle of it. And next year, there's going to be some big shifts. So look forward to that annual one. And then next week, too, on the weekly blog, I'll be looking at the monthly for January, and I also think we're going to have a full moon next week, if I'm correct. I think it's a full moon in Cancer. It might be the week after, right at the beginning of the week after. I haven't actually looked yet, but I know we'll be getting close to the full moon in Cancer. So all right. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy and prosperous New Year. We have a tough world, but we all have a mission to help transform it. The age of Aquarius requires that. So we all have to bring out our greatest good and talent to be shared, and together, try to uplift things and resolve a lot of these issues that have come up and that we've been exposed to, thanks to Pluto and Capricorn, that are undermining the structure of our systems in society. It's time for change. That's what Aquarius wants us to do. We don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but we do have to change the bathwater. All right. Happy New Year's. I'll see you all next year.